So, hello. So, tonight, Wednesday the 19th of February, is the night that I demonstrate how to make block 3 and block 4 in the Made in 2025 sampler quilt. Doing block 3 and block 4 tonight because I missed, I couldn't do the live last week, so I'll be doing that soon. So I'm just going to wait to see if anyone turns up. I'm a minute early, so I think I've only had 2 RSVPs this week, so there probably won't be an awful lot of people on, but I'll still go ahead with the live anyway, just to show you, because then what I can do is save the video, and then if you're watching it back, then you can just catch up at your own pace. Yeah, if you come on, say hi. Hello. I know we've got a couple of people coming on now. Hello everybody. Drop a comment just to say hi so I know who's here. I'm just going to go and get my little dolly with the blocks on in a second so she can join us this evening. Oops. Hope you can see her. There she is, modelling the blocks. I'll just get these off. I feel awful sticking pins in her, but hey ho. Right. So yeah, I've got no comment yet, so I'm not quite sure who's on. But what I'll do while I'm waiting for people to come on, oh gosh, that's a bit big, isn't it? Yeah, I think I've cut that down a bit. Anyway, while I'm waiting for them to come on, I'll just get the other blocks that have been made to date. Oh gosh, oh no. Put a hole in my t-shirt, that's not good, is it? Who have we got then? Hi Anthony, thank you for joining. I had a great time with Anthony on Saturday, wasn't it? So hold the phone, Anthony. This is what me and Anthony did. Hiya sis, thanks for joining me. Oh, hope you're feeling a bit better. Hiya Joe, lovely to see you, my darling. I'll love to have you on. Just going to show you what me and Anthony got up to at Lucy's So Pretty So Mindful this weekend. So I wasn't going to make a bag. I was going to have a nice leisurely non-teaching sewy day. But no, I had to. The leader, i.e. Lucy Pixie, said, no, make a bag. So this is the Lottie bag. So I had to snaffle some cord off Lucy. So I think he can give you a little close-up. Okay. I also had to buy some zips because I had one cut out at home and never took it with me. It's got little pockets at the front, lined with chambray. It's gorgeous, isn't it, Joe? Honestly, it's such a great bag to make. I think Anthony will agree as well. Put a little pocket in the front as well. Look at that. All lined with, now Lucy sells these chambrays, right? And I swear to God, they are no different to the Tildas that I've paid so much money for. So she was selling the chambrays for, I think it was $6.50. Don't hold me up, I think they were $6.50 a metre. I should know that, I bought loads of it. But honest to God, the quality is outstanding. And if I had Tilda printed on the selvage, I would have thought. Anthony, I don't know about you, I've not had a chance to slip. I've got to slip stitch my internal binding, but you see it's bound inside. I didn't put an inside pocket in because this is the back. Now I've got to put the hardware on. It's going to have lobster clasps in there and a lobster clasp up there, and it's going to be like a little mini rucksack. But I just look at these eyelets. These are with the prim tool for putting your eyelets in, and oh, what do you call them? Oh, I forgot little sugar. Oh, what do you call them? Oh, I can't remember now. Putting things in bags anyway. Everyone uses the green machine, and I did have the green machine, and to be honest, it was so heavy. So we opted and went and got the prim tool anyway. Video tool, that's it, yeah. So it does things like put all your little eyelets in. So I got these little eyelets, put a little label on. And then, now this is design feature. It is not a mistake, is it, Anthony? It is not a mistake. So basically, this zip is on the back. This is for your phone to go in, again, a lined pocket. But when you pull the zip down, the zip disappears down there. So that's an added security feature. It is not a mistake at all in any way, shape or form. I did not put my zip on upside down, did I, Anthony? No, I did not do that. Poor Anthony, because I wasn't expecting to make this bag, basically I was listening and I was following what he was doing. Basically, I just copied along. But I absolutely love it. In cord, lovely. I had to even rob a label. So pretty, so mindful. But I love the little tag. So yeah, I'm absolutely in love with this bag, and I will finish it. I do have some lovely strapping. Anyway, the other thing I want to tell you, I'm going to get all these out of the way while I'm waiting to see if anyone else comes on, is I've just discovered a Primrose cutter. Now, I was so impressed by these. I actually bought my sister one, and that's in the post. Sandra, your parcel's on its way to you tonight, babes. So this, look at this, it's so clever. Right, it locks on the back, and when you open it, you can go that way if you're cutting a couple of layers. I think you can do up to about 4, no problem. But if you're cutting more than 4, go to heavy duty cutting. And this does not activate until it's pushed down onto the cutting mat. The pressure of putting it down. Hiya, Diana. The pressure of, now Diana knows all about this because I've raved about this all weekend. The pressure of putting the blade onto the cutting mat, that's when the blade activates. It won't activate until you do that. So I think that's an amazing safety feature for rotary cutters, because 3rd time ever I've ever cut my finger, and that was a serious. And all it was, I was using my Stripology, and I was using a 60mm rotary cutter because I was trying to cut 8 layers. So I had to use a bigger rotary cutter to get through the Stripology and all those fabrics. And basically the blade snapped, and as it snapped, it jumped, and I sliced my finger off. So I'm really loving this. It's really fat handle as well, so really ergonomic. Now, the other thing I'll talk to you before we get onto the blocks is I have been doing a couple. Right, I am the only one in the UK that Tracy Perks has given permission to run workshops to make her quilt patterns. I'm the only one. So we had the first trial one on Saturday. We made 2 quilts, the Caradale. Hello, Lucy. Yes, you are late. Lines afterwards. Detention for you, Mrs. Pixley. So yeah, so just to recap, on Friday I held the first rope and anchor quilt making class at Lucy's Hub in Gainsborough. And as I said, exclusive. Tracy doesn't teach these workshops herself. No one else in the UK, as far as I'm aware, is doing them. So I feel really privileged, to be honest. So we did the Caradale, we did the Infinity Squared. You can see the pictures on my website. Absolutely went down a storm. The next one is going to be in May, and we're going to be making the Bumblebee quilt. Now, if you go onto Lucy's Facebook page, she shared a photograph of this ready-made. Heidi made it. She pattern tested for Tracy. I hope thumb's getting better, sis. She pattern tested for Tracy a little while ago. Okay. And it's an absolutely amazing quilt. It's not massive. It's only 55 by 55, so it's not a massive one. But what I've done, for those who aren't happy, hello Tanya, thank you for joining us. Buzz, yeah. So what I've done is I've done a little hack for the background, because some of the feedback was some of the ladies, even though it was a beginner quilt, were just struggling with all the chain piecing of the little squares, and obviously a lot of them just wanted to try and get as much as they could done on the day. Not so much with the Infinity Square, because that's the bigger squares, only 12 rows, but with something like the Caradale, there's 30 rows, 2.5-inch squares, so there's a lot to do there. This one isn't so bad. The B is 22 rows by 22 squares. So what I've done as a little hack, and you'll get the option, you can decide what you want to do if you do book on to the workshop, is I've drawn the background so that you can piece it in strips. You'll still piece this in the squares, but you can piece the background in strips. Now, it's something similar to what we did at the Christmas tree workshop, and everyone loved that. And it was just a suggestion that someone brought up, and I thought, can we actually do that? Yes, we can. So it's a little hack that I've done. Tracy's pattern is still there. It's still a fantastic pattern, and I personally, I love chain piecing. As you'll see if you've watched the 2 videos, I love chain piecing. I'm happy just to sit there, put them through the machine. I've actually started to make the bee quilt, and I've had a great time chain piecing all my squares through. So I'm happy with that. But I've done a little hack for it anyway. So if you are a beginner quilter and you're thinking, oh, maybe I can't do all of that, don't worry, you easily can. It'll be done. Now the other thing I want to show you just before we crack on is, because I was quite pleased by this, I started this just before Christmas, but I'm actually wanted this to make, it's Christmassy fabric, but I wanted this to make a big cushion and I wanted to applique it on. So I've actually done an English paper piecing centre, and I'm taking this to the community garden workshop tomorrow, and I'm going to applique it on, do a little bit of quilting, and we're going to make that into a cushion front. A lot of the ladies there actually, hiya Joyce, thank you for joining. A lot of the ladies there actually did put the EPP onto the front bags. Some of them just left it as we were making little pin cushions. Tomorrow we can make a little pot, storage pot, to put our threads in, or seam ripper, that sort of thing. So that's what we're doing tomorrow. Right, now that's all done. Thank you everyone for joining. As I said, if you can't stay for the whole session, you won't miss out, because once I've finished the live, it'll get saved onto my page and you can go back and look at it whenever you want to. So just to recap, we've got blocks 1 and we've got blocks 2. Now I think a lot of people, the feedback I'm getting is not a lot of people enjoy doing block 2, and I'm not really sure why, because there's a lot of background pieces in there. It could just be because it was triangles, I'm not sure. Okay, so I will, I'm not sure why that is, but I quite enjoyed it, but it could just be the piece. And don't forget, it is just a sampler block. You know, you're not going to get these right first time if you've not really done anything like this before, so don't panic. Okay, what we're going to do tonight though is we're going to start off with looking at block 3. So this is block 3, and just as a reminder, the navy in my quilt is my background. These colours are just there so you can, you can decide for yourself. You can duplicate these colours with any of your own fabrics. You can choose what you want to do. You can do it scrappy, you can do a 2-colour quilt. I know my sister's just doing a William Morris one with the same background. It's absolutely stunning the way it's coming out. So you don't have to do it in primary colours. But I really enjoyed making this block, so this is what we're going to do this evening. Okay, and you might think it's hard, but it's not. I'll show you the back. You see how it's pieced. It's very straightforward. After that then, what we're going to do is we're going to move on to block 4. Now I was working through block 4 today and I reread the words and I wasn't happy with some of the wording in block 4, so I've made some amendments. So I've put the link on the page, or go to my No Monday site, download the revised one and just keep the correct one in with your records of the whole quilt. Okay, right, so just as a quick reminder, you get the outline block on the instructions when you download them. You get a black and white drawing, a line drawing, which I do use quite a lot when I'm looking at my placement, particularly if you're, if you're not using planes, if you're using your own fabrics, you might want to write on, William Morris there, and there, plain there. Do you know what I mean? Just so you know where you're going yourself. This is the cutting instructions here. So it gives you the size of the piece that you need to cut, and then it gives you other instructions like this is subcut each piece with a 45-degree diagonal line, and you'll create 2 triangles. And over here it tells you how many of each of those you need. This, for example, is you would cut a square that is 7 1/4 inches square, and then you're going to subcut it that way and subcut it that way, so you end up with 4 triangles. What it's saying on this side is you would need 1 patch of red, 2 patches of orange and 1 patch of yellow. Now don't obviously discard all the other patches, because they will come in useful on other blocks as well. Okay, so you're not going to waste any fabric on this. This is a great scrap buster, by the way, as well. You can really use all your scraps on this as well. And yeah, and again, you see there, you're doing exactly the same thing with those. Okay, don't forget to turn over onto page 3, because sometimes there are additional instructions there. And then here you've got your very basic instructions. They're very basic because I could go into detail and give you loads of detail and you follow it like you would see in like today's quilter or something like that. But I wanted to show you, I'm a big visual learner, so I wanted to show you how to do the blocks. And this is just a basic outline of what you do. It tells you that the finished size is going to be 12 and the unfinished size is 12 and a half by 12 and a half. If your blocks don't come out as that size, don't worry about it. You can always trim them down. You can put sashing on them. We'll talk about squaring up and finishing the quilt from September onwards. On the back, you've got a colouring page. You can stick little samples of fabric on. You can write down, you know, William Morris, plains, what have you, just so you know what you do. So that's your little record of how you're going to make your quilt. Okay, so today we're going to start off, and what we're actually going to do is we're going to begin by taking piece C. I'll just show you here. Excuse me while I move this up and down. So this is my piece C, okay, and that's where it is. This is what we're working on. We've took a piece of C, and what we're going to do is we're going to take 4 Ds and we're going to attach 4 Ds around each edge of piece C, okay, and we do this as follows. Now obviously you've got the square and you've got a triangle, and what you want to do is you want to make a really sort of symmetrical design like this, okay. The easiest way to do that is to take your square, fold it in half one way and just give it a little finger crease, fold it in half the other way and finger crease that as well, and now you've got markings on each side. Take your triangle, one of your triangles, fold that in half like so, okay, so you can see the crease there. Take your triangle, I hope you can see that, yeah, okay, yeah, and then what you're going to do is you're going to match this crease with the crease that you just made on one side of your square. You're going to pin that in place, and what you're going to do is you're going to go to the opposite side and you're going to repeat exactly the same thing with another triangle, okay, and match that up with the crease on that side. And then when you do that, what you will find, excuse me, just need a pen. When you've done that, if you've got the position right, you'll see that the crease lines from one triangle run directly into the other. Then what you're going to do is take that to the machine, and you're going to, using what I would suggest on this one is use a scant 1/4 of an inch. Now a scant 1/4 of an inch is where you will set your machine to a 1/4 of an inch if you've got the 1/4 inch stitch, or use a 1/4 of an inch foot for your machine. Then what you want to do is just move your foot, if you can, your needle position, just move it over 1 or 2 clicks to the right of your machine, okay. That'll give you a scant 1/4 of an inch, and what that will do is basically give you a seam that sort of, when you iron the seam back, it sort of takes into account the thickness of the thread that you're using, okay. And that way then as well, when you use the scant 1/4 of an inch, you will find, particularly when you're piecing triangles together, you'll find that you'll get a better match and you won't lose as many points, okay. So I'm just going to stitch this. Now I've already made some up because I really want to focus on, because I think block 3 is a bit easier, I really want to focus on block 4 as well this evening, but I am going to finish this off. So it's just the normal, whatever your 1/4 inch straight stitch on this machine, it's 1.8. This is a semi-professional, it could be 2.2, whatever your straight stitch is, just go with that. So I've stitched one side, I'm going to flip it round and I'm going to stitch the other side, okay, making sure that when you take your pin out, everything is aligned along the side, okay. You don't want this triangle to move out of line. Okay, so when you're finished, you've got something like this, little flappy, okay. I'm now going to take this over. Now we talked about pressing before, okay, so I'm now going to take this over and I'm just going to set the seams, which means iron on top of the thread. That'll sort of encourage the thread to sit into the fabric, and then I'm going to use the very point of the iron just to fold these back very gently. Then once they're folded back, I'm going to press it, not iron it, okay. And that's because obviously with triangles, they're all cut on the bias. We don't want them stretching way out of shape, okay. So I'm just going to use the tip of the iron just to fold. You could finger press if you've got really warm hands, and then once it's pressed back, I'm just going to put the iron on it and I'm just going to press it until it's flat. Now I do normally use, I've been doing a little bit of research, as anyone knows, and I've been finding that the Dr. Beckman spray iron, easy iron and spray starch is really, really good. I've been enjoying using that better than like flatter in that, but I've run out of that today, so unfortunately I'm using the flatter, but there's no scent in this, so that's fine. Okay, I find the scent a little bit overwhelming. Once that's ironed, I'm then just going to give it a quick spritz with whatever starch you prefer, best press, flatter, what have you, just to press, and then that is now nice and flat. Okay, what we would do then is we will refold, because obviously we've just ironed our creases out, but you just want to refold, and you just want to just gently add those creases in to the other side. Okay, where is my, it's not, is it? Bear with one. Oh, there they are, couldn't see them for looking. Right, okay, so we're just going to repeat the same process for the other two squares. Okay, so yeah, so we're just going to put that on and put that on. We don't put all four on at the same time, because otherwise if you do and you stitched up all four sides, you wouldn't be able to flip them all back, they'd be stuck. And if you'd like to know how I know that, it's because that's one of the very first things I ever did when I first started quilting. So you learn by your mistakes, don't you? So as you can see, I'm just matching the pressed seam in the triangle with the pressed seam in the square. And if you can see there now, what I'm getting is I'm getting these lovely, oh gosh, where have you gone? Bear with, Quilt, there you are. Don't know what happened there. You can see I'm getting these lovely little dog ears here, okay, and that's what you want to see. Okay, so I'm now going to sew this one into place. Now, if you've got a 1/4 of an inch foot with a little guide, what you'll need to do is when you put it under your presser foot, what you'll need to do is just lift it up ever so slightly, because otherwise the guide will sort of scrunch your fabric up. No, it wasn't a bra, Tanya. It was it flipped round to the curtains in my sewing room. But funnily enough, I bought them from Rosenberg's, a festival quilt, a few years ago, and the fabric was actually meant to be for like I don't know, some sort of sexy lacy underwear, because he did ask me whether I was buying it to, and I was like, no, buying it to make curtains out of. So yeah, no, it's not a bra, Tanya, honestly. So I'm just going to set the seams again on this, and then just use the iron just to push them back like that. Okay. And then a little spritz. Now, I think some of you have seen my clapper before. This is my Millwood clapper. Now, Janie was at one of the oh, I know, Tanya, yeah, very push. Janie was at one of the she was one of the ladies at the retreat at the weekend. She had this I think it was a 6-inch one, that's a 10-inch one. So what I would normally do when I make a block like this, and when I'm pressing it, I would leave it under the clapper till it was nice and flat. Okay, but that's basically how you make the first step, which is this. So you're going to do that 4 times, and you're going to make 4 of those. Okay, so I've done that now. What I then do is I do just trim off the just cut off the dog ears, because they just get in the way really. So I'm going to flip it on, I'm going to light, and I am just, see that blade doesn't come out until I press down. Just going to flick them off, okay, because they do just get in the way. Now, if you want to square this block up at all, you're not quite sure what size it needs to be, if you look at block E and the cutting, the size for block E is 4 3/4, and what we will be doing, as you can see in the diagram, is we're going to be sewing these onto block E. So these need to be the same size as block E. Okay, so if you're worried about the size, you can go ahead and do that, but if you follow the cutting instructions, you will come out with the exact size block. Okay, now the next step in the instructions, step 2, it says to select one of the complete blocks from step 1, which is one of these, and we want to attach a piece of A to the top. So this is A here. So I'm going to take one of these and we're going to attach A onto that. The next step says that we need to attach 2 of B either side, okay? And what we're doing is we're forming a triangle here, because this block, if I show you here, it's made of 3 pieces. We're going to have this triangular as the upper triangular block. We're going to have this center panel here, okay? And then we're going to have the lower triangular block. Okay, so this is why you make these 4 pieces first. Okay, so starting at this one here, I'm now going to sew A on, and then I'm going to sew a B and a B either side. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at my pattern and see where I'm up to. So I'm sewing this block here, so this is A and these are B's. So I need a navy background A, I need an orange B, and I need a yellow B. So I'm going to select those now. So now I've got the pattern in front of me, so I know my layout. Okay, now if you're just using all the same fabric for your colours, you don't need to worry about that. It's just for me because I'm trying to follow the pattern and keep the colours the same. So the first thing I need to do is to sew one of these onto the top of this. And to make sure that we get this centered correctly, I am going to repeat the process of folding this in half again, as so, and we will be sewing it on to the top here. So you can see here we've got this point on the triangle, and we're going to match the fold and line it up with that point there, slide it up, and I know if I pin that in place I've got that exactly centered. Okay, when I sew this, and this is just a hint and a tip as well, a lot of people cut their triangular points off, particularly if their seam allowance, like here, if that's less than 1/4 of an inch. If you ever face with a situation where you've got to sew a seam and you don't want to cut this off, just reduce the size of the seam allowance that you're sewing on that particular piece. It won't make much of a difference, but what it will do, if you can make sure when you're sewing that your sew line is just above where those 2 stitch lines meet there, so about there, if your sew line is there, you will not cut off the tip of your triangle. So sometimes you find that you might have to sew 1/8 of an inch seam allowance because maybe you've just miscut, or your fabric stretched, or what have you, you just made a bit of an error in your cutting, or something's happened, you're not quite sure why, but you don't want to lose that point. And if you're not sure what you need to do, normally what I'd do is I'd have this side facing and I'd sew down there. But if I was worried about cutting the point off that square there, I would just sew from this side. So I'm just going to do that now. So I'll just show you what I mean with this. So I'm going to sew from this side. Unfortunately, the scant 1/4 of an inch is the right seam for this. As I go over this, I can see that my needle has just dropped just this side of where those 2 stitch lines are. And if you're on point as well with your stitching, what you will find is when you get to the very end here, where your little dog ear is sticking over, you'll find at this intersection here, the stitch line comes right across, and that's it. You know you've got your seam exactly spot on. So if I push this back now, moment of truth, push it back, and you can see there the point is there. I'm going to take just the iron and I'm just going to press that back. Okay, so set the seam and then just use the point tip of the iron to get that across, and then just a quick press. Okay, and you can see there, point's perfect. All right, just about. Okay, lucky on that one, I think. Right, so next step, I've now got to add on my bees because I'm making a triangle. So when you are adding these triangular pieces on, what you want to be doing is you want to be matching So you've got like your right angle triangle here. You want to match the sides and the bottom of the triangle up with the piece that you've just sewn. So if I show you here, I'm going to pin this on. So when you put your triangle on, that's how you want to pin it on. So you've got this nice right angle here, okay? And we're going to stitch down this line, and when we do that, we're going to flip this back, and you can start to see how we're going to have one side of the triangle. Once we've done this, we can pin the other side on. Just make sure if you pin the other side on, you pin it out of the way, because you don't want to stitch that accidentally down like that, okay? So I'm just going to do that now, just for speed, and just show you what I mean. Okay. And you can see there now, I've got that stitched on that side and that stitched on that side. So I'm just going to sew up each side. And also as well, if you see, you've got your dog ears with your little 90-degree little angle in the side. That's what you're aiming for with your dog ears. You want your dog ears to be have a little 90-degree angle in here, and that just means that you're spot on with your positioning, with your seam allowance, and you shouldn't have any issues really. And a bit wobbly then. Oh, gosh, that did go very wobbly on that. We still got a point, that's okay. I'll give myself that one. Too fast. Let me just turn that down a tad. Okay. Excuse me. Okay. So I went a little bit wobbly on that one. Now normally I would use me. Sorry about that. I lost connection there slightly, so I hope you've all come back to me. Oh, Lucy. Right, so I would unpick that if I just show you. I did go wobbly. It's my own fault. My machine was too fast. Went a bit wobbly there. I would normally unpick it, but when I've looked, it doesn't really make much difference, and I've sort of got my point there, so I'm happy with that. If I didn't have my point, I would unpick it. So as you can see, I've just finger pressed there, and you can see we've now got this triangular shape. Okay, and if I just show you in the block where that is, so this is the original block, and this is what I've made there. Okay, so you can see how this is a third of the block. We repeat exactly that process down there, and then we've got this middle one which joins them both together. Okay, so I'm just going to take this, I'm going to press it. Always press with your patchwork, because and it's the same with dressmaking as well. Press, because it does make a difference. I did used to do a lot of finger pressing, and I think for like the likes of foundation paper piecing, finger pressing is probably all right because of how you stitch your fabrics on. And I don't like to iron the papers too often, because I think sometimes they do shrink a little bit. But yeah, for something like this, you do definitely want to be pressing. I've just given that a spritz of flatter, and I'm just pressing that now. Okay. All right. So that's that part. I have gone ahead and I've done the other one, so I've already made that one. So you can see now I've got my true triangular pieces. So I'm going to set them aside. And what we're going to do now is go back to making the middle bit. So the instructions tell you to take one of your pieces that you made in step 1, so these little in diamond squares, and you're going to sew one either side of this central blue piece. And then what you're going to do then is you're going to take your triangular pieces and you're going to add them either end to form this strip that's quite pointy at both ends. Okay, and that's what we're going to do now. So I've already done part of this. So I've took my blue centre square, I've stitched on my yellow one, and I've added on the blue triangle. So all I've done now, what I've done with this as well, just to show you, is when I've stitched the other side, what I've tried to do is make sure, just to keep it all looking nice, that the point of this is in line across the other block with this one as well, just in case there's a little bit of movement or the block isn't quite precise. So I've lined that up. I just need to make a little adjustment there, bear with. Okay, right, so I'm just going to stitch across using the scalp quarter inch again, and I'll just show you on this where the stitch line has gone. So you can see the stitch line is, it's like just above where they meet there, and that means that when I fold that back, I'm not even pressed, but you can see I've not lost my point. So just bear that in mind, and hopefully with that in the back of your brain, you'll always have lovely points then. Now before I take this to be ironed, what I'm going to do is, again, to find the centre of this, I'm going to fold this piece A, this triangular piece, in the middle, and I am going to line this up here with this point on the block. Line it up there, slide it up to the edge, and then I'm going to pin that down. Okay, and I know that I've got that in the best possible position then for it to be all centered up and lined up. Okay, and again, if you're worried about losing your point, sew from this side so that you can make sure that you don't hit that, you don't go below that stitch line there. If you use the scant, you should be all right. The scant quarter of an inch, you should be all right. Okay. Yeah, there you go. Again, so we've got another point. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to look at the back of this, because this is now going to have the two triangular pieces attached either side. Okay, one this side, one this side, one this side, to form a square. Now, the thing that you want to remember is, and you'll know from blocks 1 and 2, is that there are going to be nesting seams in this, and it's going to be around, let me just show you here, it's going to be around these blocks there. And as I've said on previous videos, is if you can iron your seams so that they iron this way and that inwards, then the seams will nest really, really well, and it'll just make sure, it'll give you those those perfect matching points that you want. Okay, so I'm just going to take this to the iron. Let me turn it over. I'll show you here. I've ironed these ones out, so and I've ironed that one in, so I'm going to iron this side in. I'm going to press this side in, and then when I do that, the seams will match. I'll just finish this side, and then I'll nest it up, and then I will show you what I mean by that, if you've not seen any of the other videos before, or if you don't really understand what nesting means. Okay, so set the seam, and I'm just iron that seam in. I think we're okay on that one, that's fine. Right, I'm using my big Aliso today because my little one's downstairs and I forgot to pick it up. So right, okay, so we're joining this on now because this is how we make the square block. So if I just show you here, I don't know if this will work. Let me just get these up. I'm going to use quilter's clips on these as well, because I find quilter's clips, when you're nesting your seams, I think they're easier to use, because sometimes when you've nested up, if you then can't, when you're putting your pin in, sometimes it moves a little bit, I find. So that's just me, but it's down to you really what you'd like to do. Also, as with quilter's clips, I think it's easy then to just flip your block over and just make sure, I don't know that you can see that there, just make sure that you're happy where your pieces are. So just to show you here what I'm doing with piecing, excuse me, with nesting, sorry. is, that's what I'm looking for when I nest. I want this seam has gone that way, that seam's gone that way. So when I push them together, they almost want to lock into each other and butt up against each other. And that means then when I stitch them, they should come out looking really, really good. Okay. There's no other seams in this to nest. It's just that one really. But what you will find is you'll have this triangle piece coming up here. And again, you're going to end up with a little dog ear down that way. Okay. So you probably do want to pin everything to make sure that nothing moves. I'm just doing this for speed now. But yeah, I would suggest that you pin everything. Okay. You are going through the point of the diamond here. So again, just make sure that you're going above that seam line junction. And I'm just making sure when I've took the clip off that these nest perfectly, which they are. I think when you're joining your blocks together, that's probably when you just want to take the most time really to just make sure that you can get them looking as best as you can. I think that one's moved slightly there. Okay. I mean, if they don't nest, it's not the end of the earth. No one's going to notice, and I think once it's quilted or you do whatever you're going to do, it's not the end of the world. And we don't always get perfect points at all. Doesn't matter how hard you try. So don't beat yourself up. Just 1 second. Can you just bear with me 1 second? I've just got a family call come through. I just need to shout somebody down. Sorry about that, family. You tell them what you're doing and I don't know. Anyhow, right, so that's all done. So I'm quite happy with how that's turned out. You can see the junctions that were nested were there. Quite happy with that. So what I will do then is I'll just go back to this one, the other side, and do exactly the same. So I'm just repeating exactly the same thing. I am just nesting these seams, and then once we nest these seams, basically this block is done. That's it. So I think it is a beautiful block to do. I really enjoyed making it, I've got to say. And I also, when I cut it out, I thought, I don't think I've got enough pieces there. It looked like a really tiny block to make. Yeah, so I did enjoy making it. Oops. I don't want to go through that one. Bear with. Go this side. I think I might miss a point on that side, but excuse the sound of the machine, it really does need a good clean. Okay, that's fine. Right. So this is block 3 done. So you can see how quickly and easily it comes together. It's just a matter of getting all your pieces organised and making these in advance, and then follow the instructions. Now what I would do with this is I would actually take this to the iron, set the seams, and then I would actually open these seams and press them completely flat, which is what I'll do afterwards. And that's how I finished this one here. You can see I've finished the seams there. I've opened the seams, and then you get a lovely nice flat block. So this is the one I've made, and that's the one there. So that's block 3. So I hope you followed that. I really enjoyed making that, honestly. I don't know why, but maybe because it come together quite quickly, I think, in a way, once you did all your preparation of your 4 blocks. It did seem to come together really quickly. So what we'll do is we have a slurp of water, if you don't mind. Okay. Lucy Pixley, do an FPP on your featherweight while you watch me. Oh yeah, you're making that lovely quilt, aren't you? The is it Love from Beth one that you're making? That was really nice. Honestly, I don't know why you started that, you mad woman. So, mind you, I've got to make some sort of holder for my husband's. He's got this funny bladey thing, and it didn't come in a little holder, so he wants me to make him a PU holder. So I've dug this out, and a bit of vinyl, and a little bit of a netty pocket. Not me, the pocket. So that needs to be, but I dug this out for the line, and I absolutely love this fabric. I thought it was quite apt seeing it to like a grooming thing, but it's like an old-fashioned newspaper, but it's all about water closets, i.e. toilets. So that's going on the lining and the inside. I don't know why I've got that much, or where I even got it from, but I just think it's quite quirky and funny. So yeah, spend a penny. Yeah, it's quite funny that, actually. Spend hours reading it. Right, so block 3 is done. Voila. Right, block 4. Right, now block 4, I was like, oh gosh, is this going to be complicated? But let me just show you this is the fabric that you need for block 4. That's it. And again, you think, what? That's not enough. But block 4, and I do mention this in the introduction, oh, stone roses. Yeah, I do mention in block 4, and also in the introduction, that I say things like, make 8 sets of flying geese. I did demonstrate, I think, the flying geese in one section, in one point before, but to explain why I do them this way. But I'm going to go through that again tonight, because I think it was somebody else asked me about it. So when you've done all your cutting out, and again, like, you look at the diagram, you think, oh my god, that is really, really confusing. It's not actually as confusing as you may think. If you go back to the instruction, if you look at step 8, what I've done in step 8 is, again, you're making it in 3 parts. So you've got your central piece, you've got 2 parts to make your upper triangle and 2 parts to make your lower triangle. So it's constructed very similar to what block 3 is, but there's a little bit more involved in this, because we're dealing with a lot more triangles in this, etc, etc. So that's why I've done the little coloured diagram like that. If you have a read of it, it will make sense. Okay, so we're going to start with the flying geese. Now again, if you don't, I've obviously made mine to match my pattern. If you've only got a background colour and one colour, that's fine. And again, all my backgrounds are the navy. Okay, so I'm going to start by making the flying geese. Now, the first lot of flying geese I'm going to make, if I can just point it out, if no one knows what they are, that is a flying geese block there, and that is a flying geese block there. So is this, so is that, 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 so is that. Okay, it's just the fabric placement that makes it look slightly different, because you've obviously got, you can't see. These here are there, you just can't see it because it blends into the background, and that was a deliberate design feature by myself. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to make them anyway. So when you go to the cutting diagram, to make the flying geese, you're going to use, if I show you here, you're going to use A's and B's to make your flying geese. This is your cutting diagram for A. So this is where you're cutting out your squares and then sub-cutting into triangles, which will be the bigger parts, the inner part of your flying geese, okay? And this if you go down to B, here, you're going to take your square, you're going to subcut it into 4 smaller triangles, and these are going to be the side pieces of your geese. So these are going to be the wings of your geese, okay? So you actually are, now just bear with, because I have sort of made a little start on these to speed things up, but I'm going to show you from scratch what we actually do. Okay. So I'm starting with one piece A, and I am making in my block, where is the block here? Let me just pin this up here on Dolly. Sorry, Dolly. I feel hard. Oh dear. Right, so I am making a orange flying geese, and that is actually this one here in my block. Okay, it's red in this one, but I've changed it to orange in this one. Okay, so we have our triangle, and we have our 2 smaller triangles. And what you will do is you will take your triangle, your 2 triangles, and imagine if you put them together, they look like that. If you then put them on top of your triangle, your bigger triangle, that's how they're going to be. So you're going to match up the bottom edge of this smaller triangle with the bottom edge of your larger triangle, and then you are going to match up this longer side edge of the triangle of the smaller one with the bigger one underneath. So it's going to lay on top like this. Okay, but it's important that you match the bottom edge. That'll give you the exact placement of where these need to be. Then you've got to put a pin in this, okay? And what I suggest you do is that you do one side of all of your 8 flying geese first, so you can chain piece these through. As I've done in this case, I'll show you what I mean here. Just bear with me, let me split these up. That one, that one, that one. Just bear with. I'm going to show you these ones here. So you can see I've already done one side of these, and I just chain piece them through one side. You can't sew these, you can't think, oh, I'll pin that one on and pin that one. It doesn't work. You won't be able to fold the wings back, okay? So pin one side, chain piece them all, separate them up, and then you're going to set the seam. You're going to press the first wing back, and then you'll come back and you'll put the second wing on the opposite side on all of your geese. So I'm just going to show you by what I mean by that. So I'm going to take this. So as you can see, this is what when we've pinned it on. This is the piece that we want to be looking at. This is what we're going to be sewing. If I turn it around, you can see. Now you be careful when you sew this, because just one pin there, it can move. You want it to match perfectly, and you can see that this bit sticks out over that. That is your dog ear. That's what you're looking for. Okay, so I'm just going to sew this down again using the scant 1/4 inch. Okay, just making sure everything's lined up. And as I said, when you've done all of one side, you're going to set your seam, and then you're going to use the tip of your iron just to gently finger press that seam back. You don't want any creases, any tucks. I'm just finger pressing that back, and then just to press on the top, okay? And at this stage, what I would then do, just give it a little spritz and let it dry, because you want to stabilise that. You don't want that moving at all now. You want that to be nice and crisp, okay? Then what you will do is you will take your second piece, and again you're going to match the bottom and the sides together. You're going to pin it on, and you're going to end up with a shape that looks like that. And you can see the dog ears cross over at the top. Okay, so I'm just going to stitch this down. So if you chain piece all of these one side, it does save a lot of time, because, you know, obviously going backwards and forwards individually wastes a lot of time. It's not very ergonomic. So if you chain piece and then you can do all your pressing of one, etc. And then you can come back and do the other side. Sorry, I don't know what's going on. It says slow connection today, so I hope I didn't lose you. So there you can see that's my first flying geese. And the important thing to notice is from the point to the edge, what you're looking for is 1/4 of an inch. Because before, when we were sewing the square inside a square, we were trying to avoid losing the point. And it's the same again with the flying geese. You really don't want to be having like your geese like a blunt with a broken beak, basically. Okay, so that's what it looks like. All right, now there are lots of ways of making flying geese blocks, but what I'm showing you, because this is a beginner's quilt and I don't want to overcomplicate things, this is the way that I first learned. And also I think it's important that you understand the basic construction of a block. There are like the Magic 8 version and everything. You know, you can go away and look at how you want to do these, particularly if you're not worried about colour placements, and if you go and research how to do the Magic 8 version or the no waste flying geese, what have you, then you can go away and look at those, and then if you want to give them a go, you can do. But if not, this is probably the easiest and the simplest way of doing a flying geese block. Also as well, if you're using scraps, this is ideal, because you only need that triangle basically to do it. So that is one of them made. I've got these other 3 to do. So what I will be doing now quickly is I am just going to add these on, and I'm going to chain piece these through, and this will give you an idea of how quickly it can be done. If you get them all pinned on ahead of time like this. Oh, it does help if you don't throw your pins all over yourself, by the way. So have all your geese like this here. And you're going to make 8 of these. Now obviously I had to be very careful with my placements, because some of mine have got a dark centre and some of mine have got a coloured centre. So I split them into 4 groups and worked with them that way. I would suggest that if you don't want to get confused, just label your pieces so you know exactly what piece goes with what. But I do find matching them all up and pin them in advance does help. Right, that's that one done. And so each time I do this, all I'm doing is I'm matching the bottom edge of the small triangle to the bottom edge of the large triangle, and then matching them along the longer sides as well. Now what you would do normally if you were making flying geese is you would actually put the whole square on a rectangle. You would stitch up the line. You would mark a line, a diagonal line. So you'd draw a line on, you'd stitch 1/4 of an inch away from that line, and then what you would do is iron your goose back, like your geese's wing back, like we just have, but then you would then cut the excess fabric away, which is why you hear of like no waste flying geese and things like that, because there are ways and means of doing it. I can't get my head around it, to be honest. I'm really struggled with me left and right and couldn't get it round. I couldn't get my head around it. So I found that this is the simplest method for my brain, basically. I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm not cutting the wrong thing. Thanks for coming in, Diana, and your parcel left today, hon, so it should be with you by Friday at the latest, hon. Right, okay, so as you can see, I've got 1, 2, 3, I've got 7 here to do. So I'll just show you how quickly chain piecing can be. Tanya says, how did you choose where to put your colours? It was just a lot of trial and error, to be honest, Tanya. When I put the blocks in, I messed around with the colourways. I've got this pattern in various different colourways. I just opted for the blue and the primary just because I thought it would be easier. So just, sorry Tanya, I'll carry in a minute. Just before, when you chain piece, and just before I finished on the other one, what I'm going to do is just lift the foot, put the dog ear tip underneath the foot and then just carry on sewing. Okay, I've not cut my thread, I'm just carrying on sewing like this. And that way then what you'll find, because sometimes when you sew triangles, your triangle will get just dragged down into your feed dogs, but if you leave the needle just a little bit in the piece you've just sewn and just get that feed dog under, sorry, that dog ear just under the foot and on the tip of one of the feed dogs, you'll find that it will pull through no problem at all, and you won't get any chewed up triangles then that way. Okay. I'm having to stop and lift up my foot because I've got a 1/4 inch guide on this, and it obviously doesn't like to go over the dog ears that are there. I'm just matching this up again. So just stop if you think that you're not matching up, just stop and match it up. Yeah, it doesn't like going over that fabric, so get it stitching and then stop and lift the foot and then carry on. Last one. Okay. By chain piecing and getting everything prepared, you can actually do the block quite quickly. So when you chain piece now, what we've got lovely bunting. All right, lots of bunting. So now it's just a matter of just cutting all the threads in between. And now we can go, and if we fold our pieces back, you can see we've got lovely flying geese, 2 wings, and we've got a nice seam allowance here that should be a 1/4 inch from there to there. Sandra says, I use the diagram to colour my background colour in different colours, helps replacement. Yes, Sandy, that's why I've included that, because it's a great idea, just for you to mark it up, even if you just put a little tiny sample of your own fabric on where you want it to be, or write it on, or what have you. It does really help when you're trying to follow, because there's a lot of pattern designers who will just use primary colours on their quilt patterns, and then you just you know, substitute your own fabrics for that. It just really helps to keep the pattern, to also highlight the pattern in a way, and because you know, and you'll see this by looking at everyone's blocks that people have done. It's amazing to see the difference, how different each block looks with everybody's fabrics in it. I mean, sometimes you wouldn't even know it's the same pattern, the same block that you're making, because the fabric really does affect your eye, and you know, sometimes you can actually lose the whole design of the block because of the fabric, which is lovely because that's what you want, obviously. Oops, sorry. But yeah, so that's why when you see a pattern like the block of the month, you will see it just in the primary colours. I think John Cole Morgan actually does a lot of his patterns that way as well, just in a couple of colours. I mean, it's nice to make them up in those colours as well, if that's what you're happy with, which is why I'm doing mine in these colours. So I've never really done a plain quilt before, which is why I'm doing this. And then I'll probably have a little mess around with the quilting or something, you know, I don't know, I'm not sure yet. But I think if I was making it out of pattern fabric, I'd probably not do a heavy quilting on it. I'd probably be quite simple on the quilting. So swings and roundabouts, isn't it? It's whatever you want to do. But don't forget, I know there's been a little bit of feedback that I've had back. A lot of people said, oh, don't like make block 2, and I think block 2 is simpler than block 4. So that's why I chose it as block 2. I thought it would be much simpler to do. But don't forget, there's 16 blocks in total. You don't have to make every single one. If you can download it for free, it's free for a complete year, so download them while you can. You've always got them then. If you want to try them later on, if you don't think that maybe your skills are up to it now, but you want to keep the pattern. Block 16 is quite a complicated block. but I don't want anyone panicking, because I think by the time we come to do block 16, hopefully you'll have built up your skills enough to be very confident with it. That's the whole aim of the sampler quilt, really. It's so that you get a lot of confidence in doing these. And you know, a lot of people get really scared by sewing half square triangles or flying geese. I mean, it was years before I actually did a flying geese block, because I was terrified of it, because people say, oh, you know, the out of shape and everything. And I thought, do you know what, when I found this method, this just makes it much easier for me. It's one less step. For example, you know, I don't have to draw a line up the top square. I then don't have to remember to sew a 1/4 inch away from that line. I also then don't have to pull the fabric back and cut spare fabric away. So not only does this save fabric, but also as well, it's saving about 3 different steps. So for me, in my mind, I think that's easier, and that's why I've done the flying geese like this. So when you've pressed all your flying geese, I've got all flying geese done now. All I'm going to do again is just cut off the dog ears now, because we don't really want them in our seam allowance, okay, if we can avoid it. So I'm just doing that quickly, just using the rotary cutter, and I'm just cutting along the edge. Now that's a bit out there, I don't know what's happened there, so I'm just going to take that bit. You see, I don't know why that's out, something's gone on, but you can see it out slightly there. There's quite a big seam allowance there, so I don't know what that is. I probably will go back and unpick that, but I'm not going to bother in this case, because I think it'll be fine. It just means that you definitely won't lose a point, because you've definitely got more than the 1/4 inch seam allowance on there, okay? It could just be that my placement's out. Maybe my cutting wasn't the best when I was cutting these out. Be a number of reasons, really. But like this block here, that's perfect. That's a perfect flying geese. That everything's where it should be. So, okay. Right. Oh, I've got one more to do. Okay. So that's probably the most labour-intensive part of this block, really, because you can't really move on with block 4 until you've done your flying geese, because you need 8 of those making. Okay. So we've done that. So the next part says, step 3, select a pair of flying geese pieces, step 1, and sew them together along the long edge, ensuring they both point the same way. Repeat this step once more using the diagram to verify correct colour placement. So what that means is, I am going to take, for me, I'm going to take this one, and I'm going to take this one, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew them together along the long edge, okay? And I'll just show you in the pattern where this is. So I'm sewing this one and this one together, okay? So I'm just going to do that now. So lay one on top of the other. Stitch it together. I'm going to do that again. With the opposite side. Now what I would say with your flying geese is, let's see, they should be, yeah, they are, that's fine, it's okay, ignore me. Right, so I've done that one, and then I'm going to take the other side. So I'm going to take this pair now, and I'm going to sew this pair together. And again, I'm just using my diagram to make sure I've got everything where it needs to be. Nice. Okay. Right. So we need to just go back a step because I've just skipped ahead slightly. We're going to make a block very similar to what we've just done in 3. So you can see that as we make the blocks, you'll be repeating things. So what we've done in block 3, we're now going to do in block 4, which is where we take the centre block, which is C. Because in step 2 it says, sorry, if I just go back, take piece C and attach the appropriate colours of B. So if I just show you on the line diagram, we're taking C and we're going to use B's to put B's around it, similar to what we did in block 3. So for me, I need, where's my triangles? I need a blue, I need a red, I need an orange, and I need a green. Now if you remember last time, we folded it. So because we're ironing this, I'm just going to put 2 folds in because they'll just iron out. And all I'm going to do, as we did in the last block, is fold the triangles in half to gauge where the middle is, and then match that up. You can see that there. Match that up with the crease in the square underneath and pin it. And then the opposite side is my red, so I'm going to put a crease in my red triangle, as so. I'm going to slide that on and I'm going to match that up like so. And again, you know you've got your placement right because your creases are aligned with each other. Take that to the machine and just stitch those pieces down as we did in block 3. And then we just need to set the seams and then push those back with the tip of the iron. I'm just going to give that a bit of a press now. Where are those there? Those and those, those and those. Talking to myself now. There they are. So I now need to put the crease in as we did before and sew the other 2 pieces on there, and again we're going to form that sort of square in a square patch. Okay, crease on. And right, okay, and I'm just going to stitch those 2 on there. So hopefully as you work through the blocks you'll remember how to do certain patches. And it'll start to sink in. So this is what we've got here. So in my block it's going to go that way. In the other blocks we had it this way, we had that on point, but in my block it's the outer square that's going to be in point. So I'm just going to set those seams now. Now, so that is nice and flat. Okay, I'm just again cutting my dog ears off. I don't need them anymore now. So the instructions say to join a pair of flying geese up, and then what you want to do after you've made this centre block here is you want to sew those on that side and sew the other pair on the bottom. Okay, so that's what we're going to do now. And what we're forming here when we do this is we're forming that central strip. So if you go back to page 3 of the instructions, what I'm making here is I'm making this central strip here. Okay, so it's 2 pair of flying geese, 2 pair of flying geese, the centre block that we've just made, and then 2 triangles at the edge. Okay, so I'm just going to stitch this on now. Oh, sugar, excuse me, sorry. Don't ask me why, we broke a needle. Bear with, bear with. That was a bit odd, it didn't even hit any needle or anything like that, so a bit odd. Yeah, and that was actually, that was a prim needle as well. These are prim universal needles, these ones. They're a funny colour actually, they're almost black. Like gunmetal black. I've never had them before, but right, I'm just going to check, if you just bear with me 1 second, because what I don't want to do is carry on sewing in case I've got a bit of needle in here. Oh my gosh, don't look at the inside of my sewing machine, whatever you do. No, that's gonna need a really good clean. I'm so embarrassed. Yeah, no, there's no needle in it. So if you do break a needle, do not carry on sewing. Stop, check where you, make sure it's not in your bobbin. I don't know where that's gone, though something did fly off. So I'm just gonna put my new needle in now. I should thread automatically. No, it's not going down now. There it is. See if I can get that going. Nice and tight. There you go. Threaded fine. Panic averted. Okay. Right. Oh, should we have a bobbin in? That might help, mightn't it? You might want to use appropriate colour thread. I'm just using different colour threads so that I can show you the stitch lines. See, look at that. That's definitely popped off somewhere. But it's good that the needle breaks. I don't know whether you are aware of needle safety. Oh, there's the tip. I found the tip. So, yeah. It's very important for your machine that a needle breaks, okay? If the needle doesn't break, and say the needle just bends or something in the machine, it's going to knock your timing out on your machine, and it's going to end up having to get serviced again. A needle that doesn't break can really, really damage your machine. So don't be put off if needle breaks. It's a good quality needle if it breaks. I bulk bought some from Natasha Makes many years ago, and when they came I was like, oh, I wonder if I've made a mistake. But basically I had 100 in each one, so I got one needle and I just tried to break it and it broke cleanly. If you can do that with a needle, now obviously be careful because they're expensive, but if you can do that with a needle, that's the sort of needle you want in your machine. If you get a cheap needle and you try to break it and it just bends, you really don't want to put them through your machine, to be honest. I wouldn't anyway. How do you know trimming out? Trimming out? Timing. Oh, it just won't sew properly, Tanya, and it'll start to make a very, very funny noise. You'll have no end of bother. Basically, you will notice if you know it's not. Oh gosh, that foot's loose. You will notice if your timing's out. Your machine just will not stitch properly. It doesn't matter what you do with the tension or the what have you. You just won't get a nice stitch at all. But it's unusual for the timing to go from a broken needle, but it can happen. It happened on an older version of I had an MXL50, and that went, and that was just a broken needle. And I think I just bought like a a cheap set of sewing machine needles from the internet, and I won't do that again. I'll always buy branded, good quality brands. If I can, I'll buy genomes for me genomes, basically, or I'll buy Prim. I do like Prim. Those Prim ones are really good, because I mean, to be honest, I probably should have changed the needle, because that's been in for a while, which is probably why I think it's broke. So it's my own fault. User error. Probably left it in too long, but hey ho. Right, I'm going to go back to stitching again now. Panic averted, so yeah. Broken needles happens to everybody, doesn't it? I remember once quilting a quilt, and I think I broke 4 needles, one straight after the other. It's driving me mad. Right, so this is the other one for me down here, isn't it? Yeah, okay. So I'm just going to stitch this on, and then I'm going to show you what the centre strip looks like once you've got it on, okay? And the way we made block 3, you can sort of say that this is very similar in the construction of the complete block once you've got all the different component parts together. And the reason why that is there are different ways of doing it. I could tell you to sew this single row, that single row, but I'm just trying to make it a bit easier. Hiya Pippa, I didn't realise you were there, hon. I hope you're feeling a bit better, lovely. For quilting, I use an 80-12 for, you know, doing the actual quilting. For patchwork, I will probably use a 90, because if you're joining like multiple seams, you know, like particularly in something like this where you're going through multiple seams, you really want a needle with a bit of oomph, okay? So a 90 universal for general sewing. Right, okay, well just see if you can do the bend test. If they bend and they bend much more before they break, before they snap, tan, think about not using them. I wouldn't get them from like somewhere like Temu or anything like that. I just wouldn't risk machine, love. These machines are far too expensive to risk a cheap needle like that. Go for a branded needle. I know Lucy sells Prim. I do like Prim. My Genome does not like hemline. Does not like it. And I've got loads of hemline. They'll go in the Brother. They'll go occasionally in the Dukey, but the Dukey's a bit funny. The Dukey actually likes Genome needles, so figure that one out as well. Yeah, so I use an 80 for quilting, Tanya. You can get them. They're just called quilting needles. I get them. Sometimes I'll use, for the Genome, I'll use a purple tipped needle. 90 universal for the assembling, yeah. Sometimes I will quilt with a 90. I think it's a stretch in the Genome's colour code, and I think it's a stretch needle really. But if yeah, hemline, yeah, no, I don't know what it is with hemline, you know, Tanya. But yeah, I sometimes will use a purple tip Genome when I'm quilting, because I just find it gives a better stitch. If ever I'm having jumped stitches or anything like that, you know, missing stitches, put a purple needle in on a Genome and it sorts out. But I know, oh, what's the other one? Is this? Just bear with, I'll just get my needles, because where is it? Not that one. Oh, I've took them all out of the thing now. Organ, is it? Yeah. Ah, fast. Sorry, this is what I was looking for. Sorry, I knew it wasn't the other one. So I get these class ones. These ones, they've got like a little green top on them, and they go in my Genome, no problem at all. They're relatively cheap as well. I think I get these from Abercans, you know. They've been going for 125 years. Class do a lot of needles as well. I don't mind Class. I find them cheaper than some of the other brands as well. But yeah, they're the quilting needles. I use the little green ones, and they say quilting on, so I quite like that. Okay, right, so I've stitched those two together, and you can see now what I've done is, where am I? I'm here. So I've done this centre piece here, but I need to add on these triangles to finish this strip, and I think they're coming out as A, yeah. So I need A's now. I'm on this middle strip here, and I just need an A at the end and the A at that end. So I'm going to sew the A here. Okay, just bear with me one sec, I'll get them too. And again, to make sure that we don't put like wonky triangles on, we're just gonna, you'll see this happen, I do this a lot, crease it, match it up with the point on your flying geese, like that, push it up so it goes against the seam, pin it into place, and that's good to be stitched. Okay, same on the other side, we're going to fold it over to get our nice crease, and I'm going to go to this point and then just, now just to show you here, and I will show you warts and all because this isn't the best one I've done, but I'll just show you here. I don't have a 1/4 of an inch. Can you see that? I have no idea why I've stitched them exactly the same. It's probably to do with my cutting. So what I will do on that one is I am literally going to sew the smallest seam possible. Okay, obviously that block is something's happened, it's not as big as the others. So what I will be doing on this one is I'm just going to do an 1/8 of an inch seam. Now it's still okay to do an 1/8 of an inch in patchwork, but I'm just going to do an 1/8 of an inch on that one because I really want to try and preserve, if I can, if at all possible, as many points as I can. But obviously I need to make sure that my seam is secure as well. Now I know I didn't have this issue today, so it's probably a cutting out error on my part, this, but you can see I've just done that tiniest, that tiniest seam there and there, and just fill this back. Now I've took the top out of it slightly, but I still think it's the best it can be. Rather than it be down here and proper blunt like that, I've got it the best it can be like that, and I still do have a little seam that I can iron up. Okay, it'll be secure, particularly once it's quilted, it's not a problem. Okay, but I just wanted to show you that's one of the reasons why you might adjust your seam allowance. You know, we all lose concentration. I have been doing a lot of sewing today as well, so I'm blaming it on that. But you know what it is, sometimes you read something and you think, oh, I've done that right, and then you just haven't, and it's just the way it is. So the other one is fine, that's no problem. So you can see there, that's fine, and I've just done the normal thing. I'm just gonna press that, okay. I've just decided I'm going to press all the seams out towards the edges. Just to try and get it nice and flat. Now I didn't set my seam there, okay, and it's not too bad, but just show you here what happens if you don't set your seam. I did that on purpose, by the way. Can you see there the way, you probably can't, but this is coming up here, and that's because I didn't set the seam properly. It's almost like there's a little ridge. Don't know whether you can see the little ridge up there. Okay, now that can make a difference overall in the quilt. If you don't set your seam and you carry on like that, your block could end up being 1/4 of an inch too short. If I just try to, you can sort of see there's a little line there, and when I finger pressed it out, can you see? It's almost 1/8 of an inch. So that's why it's important that you set your seam before you actually, now you can always go back and reset your seam and then iron it again. Press it again rather than iron. And then what you'll find is I've now got a perfectly flat seam there. There's no extra ridge. I can't pull any more fabric out of that seam. So that's just an example of what happens if you don't set your seam. So if you're getting annoyed with me saying set your seam, That's why I'm saying do it, do it. Right, so we've done our middle strip. That's our middle strip. That's going to go across the block. So now what we need is we need this side and we need this side. And they're going to be in a sort of triangular shape similar to block 4. Okay, so what we're going to do with those bits now is we are going to take one lot of flying geese. So for me, it's this one. And what we're going to do is we're going to get 2 pieces of D and we're going to sew them either side of this block along the short edge. Hello Tanya's Auntie Melanie and Sharon, thank you for joining us. Where did I get my fabric from? Oh my god, Anthony, now I'd probably need about 5 hours to tell you where I got my fabric from, to be honest, chick. I get it from various places, to be honest. A lot of it came from John Cole Morgan many years ago. He does carry a massive amount of plains. I've got a lot from Lucy. Chambrays, Lucy, that's all I'm saying. Don't go anywhere else for chambrays. Go to Lucy for your chambrays. Okay. Right, now I think I've cut these too big, my D's. The D should be the same size as your flying geese. So you can see there, I've obviously had a brain meltdown and I've cut them too big. So it doesn't matter. I'm still going to stitch them on and I'm going to trim them. So what I'm doing, make sure I've got that the right way. Yeah. And again, I'm looking at my plan of where I want these to be. I'll show you now. Definitely had a bit of a brain meltdown doing these, God knows why. I've probably just been very lazy and thought that looked the same size when I've been going through B. Thank you for joining anyway, Auntie Mel. So basically what I'm doing is I am making, now I'm working on the top, this top part here, this top triangular bit. So I'm making this bit, that bit and that bit, and that's the piece I want to make initially. And then what I will do is I will add on some B triangles either side of this strip. Okay, and I'll show you how that's done. So here you can see I've put my squares either side and I'm going to stitch them on. Now when I've done, when you'll see from the flying geese, when I say direction, you can see the flying geese are all flying away from the center. This is the center. The flying geese are flying away from the center. So when you come to do your placement, make sure that all of your points are going away from the center. Okay, so I'm just going to stitch these on and then I'm going to trim these down because they are absolutely way out. Don't know what I've done with there. But it doesn't matter, because if you do make a bit of a mistake and you do overcut, as long as you trim back your piece before you join it, obviously you're not going to leave it overhanging like that. If there ever was a piece that was supposed to be like that, I would put it in the pattern. But all the pieces should be the same. So you can see here now on this, that is the strip that I'm making. So that is going to go, I'll show you in the pattern. That is that bit there. Okay, you can see they are not the same. So D should be, what should D be? 2 5/8. Oh, I've got a little bit of a brain meltdown on that one, haven't I? So I need a ruler. 2 5/8. Give them a ruler. Okay. Oh my gosh, yeah. They are not 2 5/8 at all, in any way, shape or form. Okay, I'm just going to trim that off so it matches my flying geese. It's okay. Okay. Let me just check. That is supposed to be 2 5/8. So that's 2 5/8. So that is slightly too long now. So I'm chumming away to myself here. Yeah, so, oh gosh, that's a hard square. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I don't know why I've done 2 7/8. So I've mistook 2 7/8 for 2 5/8. So I need to cut a 1/4 inch off that, because it should have been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Take down a 1/4 inch, so it should be 2 3/8 now, and it's not, it's 2 5/8. So
and that's my mistake. So when I've checked it, it should be 2 3/8 there. Okay. And it's important that we get that right, because we've got to sew stuff either side. We've got to sew a piece either side of this. So that's what that should be there. Okay. That looks much more reasonable now. So that was just a pure mistake. I've read 2 7/8, not 2 5/8. Now if we just show you this piece again, now it looks much more reasonable, because we've got our 1/4 inch seam allowance this side and our 1/4 inch seam allowance that side. So that is just a simple cut and error, and that's why it was out the way it was. Okay, so we're now at this piece here, but we've got to sew bees on here because we're going to start to triangulate this piece. Okay, so I need what do I need? I need a red and I need an orange. Okay, so when you come to put these pieces on, I'm going to do this upside down. That one's going to go there. Right, okay. Again, what you're doing is you are making sure that this 90-degree angle here stays at 90 degree on this triangle. So you're going to match this side of the triangle up with the edge of block D, and you're going to match the bottom of the triangle with the bottom of block D. So that is how it's, and I always remember it by remembering that that's got to be a little 90-degree angle here. That's how I remember it. So when that goes back, it's going to go like that, and it's going to start triangulating this strip. I'm going to pin the one on the other side. So when you've got your piece B triangles pinned either side, this is what it's going to look like. Okay, see, we've got our 90-degree there. Okay, and all we're going to do now is making sure that everything stays matched up. We're just going to do our seam allowance 1/4 inch or scant 1/4 inch up this edge here, because we're joining the square onto the triangle. We're going to do that for both of those, and that is that bit done then. That's probably one of the most complicated parts, I would say, of this block. Right, so I'm just going to get this done. That's that one done. Right, so this is the first part of where we start to get Dolly there. This is where we're going to start triangulating the block here. So that's where that goes. So the next part is to make the final part of the triangle. So this is where we take another flying geese block. So in my case, it's going to be the yellow one, because I'm doing this side here, there. It's the yellow one. And either side of this, I'm not going to add the D squares on because we've already done that there. All we're going to do is go straight ahead and add 2 of the B triangles either side along the short edge. It says in the pattern, this is the short edge, that's the long edge. So you want a triangle here and a triangle there, exactly the same way that we did them. So I need a blue and I need a green. So where's my blue and my green triangle? There we go. So I need a blue on that side. So again, as we are pinning these on, pinning them on exactly the same way that we did in the previous step. And this is what we've got. So we're going to do our seam allowance either side. Okay. Now, if you're looking at thread, I know, Tanya, you said your machine doesn't like hemline thread. I think hemline thread is very linty, so I won't use that. For piecing, I would always use Orifil for piece and quilts, for doing patchwork, because it's just a much finer thread, and it means that when you set your seam, it almost disappears into the fabric. You don't end up with a bulky seam. Now, I'll just show you what I mean. If I was just to finger press that, you think, oh, that's okay. I've finger pressed it, but I don't know if you can see, there's just a little bit of a gully just before the thread. And that's what you get if you don't set the seam. The fabric will just go, but it won't go all the way. So I'm just going to set the seam on this. Okay. And again, just using the tip of your iron. Now I've set the seam on that because we've got one final part of this triangulation to finish, which is sewing a piece A onto the top of this. So again, what we're doing is we're finding our middle. Finding our middle, and we're going to go down to our point here. We're going to match that up and then push it up, pin it into place. And then you can see this, the dog ears. We know it's in the right position because we've got nice little 90-degree bits there. I'm just going to flip this over and sew it from this side in an attempt not to cut off my point. I do have a very narrow seam there. I was trying to cut this out. Yeah, coat is okay. It does cause a lot of lint in your machine. That's fine. As long as you set your seam, to be honest, it doesn't really matter what thread you use. I use Aurifil. It is more of an initial outlay, sorry, but on an Aurifil reel of thread, you get something like 1,300 meters, whereas you get 1,000 on a reel of so you're getting 13 times the amount. So if you pay £1 for a reel of moon thread, you're only going to pay about £9 for a reel of Aurifil. And it does go, particularly if you use it in your bobbin, it does seem to last a lot longer though. So I know obviously the initial outlay is quite expensive, but if you are going to buy some and you're going to use it for quilting, you want to go for like the greys. Don't go for white or black. Go for a grey or a dark beige. Maybe I don't know, like a light pink or something like that. Go for sort of very neutral colours, because even if like you know, I've got red on the back of this, it doesn't really matter. You're not going to see it. A colour will always sort of like a grey or a dark beige or something like that, or beige if you're doing like a lighter fabric, it'll always blend in. Right, okay, so I've just sewed that on, so you can see we've got a nice triangular piece. This is the top of our triangular piece. That's going to go there. We've just made this strip here, and we've made the centre strip. So what we need to do now is we want to join this top triangle onto this triangle to make one larger triangle, and that's what it clearly says in the instructions. Okay, now the reason why I didn't press this is because I wanted to press this first, because I'm going to nest the seams again. So they're out, so I really want these in, not like that. I haven't pressed this yet, so I want to press them in. So I'm going to set the seams on all of these. So I'm going to set the seams like that and like that, and then I'm going to press these in that way, because then when I sew these two together, the seams are going to nest. Okay, and it's just, as I said, the nesting's just given me the best opportunity really of trying to get everything aligned and all matchy. Okay, so I'm just going to iron all my seams in one way. And when you're ironing this, if you just see what I'm doing, what I've done is I've just put a tiny little bit of pressure just to get the seams going that direction. I'm not pulling it tight, I'm not outstretching it, just putting a bit of pressure on that way. And then if I do exactly the same, it just means that you don't have to get your fingers anywhere near your iron, she says, anywhere near your iron when you're setting those seams and getting them all going one way or the other. I'm just going to give that a little spritz because I want those to stay down nice and flat. Okay. So there we are. Okay. So I'm just let me get this done. So now I'll show it to you your way. I want this to be like that, and that forms my top rectangle. So I need the seams, sorry, the top triangle, so I need these seams to match, hopefully. Well, that one's out quite a bit there, but what I can do is I can finagle that. Now, if your seam is out ever so slightly, can you see there's a bit of bagginess? And I think that's because this is stitched and this isn't, and there's been a little bit of a stretch on the bias. If you put the baggy bit down on the feed dogs and so feed it through the machine with the baggy bit underneath, keep a little bit of tension on your points there, you will find it will match up, and I'll show you how. So you can see how baggy that is there, and you think, oh my gosh, they don't nest. But if I just open it here, you can see the seams are perfect there. So I'm going to put the baggy bit down and feed that against the feed dogs first as I stitch this seam. Okay. And I'm just making sure that everything's lined up, even though it's a little baggy underneath. Make sure everything's lined up. Making sure my seams are there, yeah. Okay. So now you can see here that even though that was a little bit baggy, and if I'd have just laid that across without nesting them seams, they wouldn't have matched. And you can see that they do match. There's no puckering, there's no bagginess, and that's because if there is a little bit of if there is a bit of stretch in a bias cut piece of fabric, if you put it down and feed it through the feed dogs, it'll pull that fabric through slightly faster than the top bit, so it allows you to actually what we call finagle. It will finagle it through. So I'm just going to give this a press, okay? So I'm going to, as I said, I'm going to set my seams. But it really, really does make a big difference when you are patchworking to do this. And it took me a very long time for me to really understand exactly the difference it does make. Now, I think I've got a lot of seams on this one, so I think what I'm going to do, what did I do on this one actually? Where is that one there? Did I open that one? Bear with. Yeah, I opened the seams flat on these because there's a lot of fabric and a lot of bulk, and I didn't just want to iron the bulk over one side or the other. So if you just bear with me while I just get this opened flat, and I'll show you what I mean. We're right for time, we've got 10 minutes yet, so. Right. So I'm just putting a bit of pressure on that, and then I'm just going to just go over that with a bit of flatter because I want that to stay nice and flat. Surprising even with the starch how it doesn't want to go flat because of the bulk. Anyway, just going to give that a press there. So there you can see that's the triangular top bit done. Okay, and if I take this over now and lay this down, you can see, no, it won't be that way, it'll be that way. That is where that is going to sit. You can see that there.
that is where that is going to sit. And looking at this now, we've got nesting points on here. We've got nesting points there, and we've got nesting points on that as well. So I'm just going to join these up here before I make the other side, because I want you to see it, because the other side's exactly the same. I don't want us to run out of time, so I'm just going to nest this up and just show you, because you've got multiple nesting points here, and it's just, don't worry about if there's any bagginess or anything in between. There isn't on this, but all these seams, if you find that a seam hasn't been ironed the wrong way, if you can go in and iron it the other way, that would be helpful. Okay. So we've got 4 seams here that need nesting. They all seem to want to nest nice and neat. Okay. So when I've opened it up, I always open it up to check, am I happy with that? And I'm happy with that. That's fine. That's roughly where it should be. So I'm just going to take this to the machine now and just stitch this. So I think you can all agree this is a little bit of a more complex step up from block 3, but you're just repeating a lot of what you've done in the earlier blocks. Obviously now you'll know how to make your flying geese, and you can practice those, you know, in your blocks. Sort of gone over how you can avoid cutting the tips off your triangles by using a slightly smaller seam allowance. If you've miscut a block like I appear to have done before, that's not quite nesting enough, but I'll see what I can do. Yeah, that's not bad. I'm happy with that. That'll do. Right, so as you can see now, you can start to see how the block is forming up. So we've got the middle and we've got the top triangular bit on. So all we're missing now is the bottom bit, okay? And you can see how it's starting to form. So it goes together very similar to how the previous blocks go. Right, okay. I'm just going to try and get the other bit done and see if I can get this put on for you. Just read the instructions and work through it methodically. Look back on the video again. I wanted to focus a bit more on this block because I think it is a bit of a step up, this block, to the others that you may have done. Oh, bum. See, I haven't even followed my own instructions now, and I shouldn't have done that. Say, follow the instructions. More haste, less speed. Follow the instructions. The instructions work. When you think you can you remember it, you can't. So yeah, I shouldn't have done that, because what I'm doing is I'm doing the lower of the triangular block, and I've just gone ahead of myself there. Okay. Oops, a daisy. Oh, I'm trying not to overstretch this. These do not like to be unpicked. Right, so new comments, let's see. If I've missed any comments, sorry. I'll come back to them, but I hope you've all learned a few little tips tonight about how you can sort of finagle your patchwork. You know, we're not all the best cutters. I'm not perfect in any way, shape or form. I have brilliant days where I often surprise myself and I go, wow, that's brilliant. And then there's other days where I'm thinking, what the heck were you doing, girl? Do you know what I mean? So let me just cut these down again. I wanted 2 3/8, didn't I? Do you remember? 2 3/8, and I went a bit mental and had. I really don't like this ruler. I mean, it's good for squaring up, but it's really no good for trying to measure on dark fabrics. That's 2 5/8 it was I wanted. Look, I'm even getting that wrong. 2 5/8, 2 5/8. Okay. So again, get your measuring, get your cutting rice. Is that 2 and 5/8? Yeah, that's about right. Okay. Right. If you get your cutting rice as well, always like, what is it? Measure twice, cut once. Is that what they say? Definitely, it's a good. It's definitely a good mantra for patchwork. That for sure. The amount of times I've miscut loads of fabric. But, oh no! Why did I do that? So, thanks, Lucy. I mean, you are the queen of demos, aren't you, love? That's high praise from you. I really feel best about tackling block 4. Will be quite an achievement if I do this. Come on, Sandy, you can do it. You know you can. You've done block 3, and have you done block 2? Yes, I think you have done. Yeah, you've done block 2. So just go easy on do your flying geese. Get your flying geese done, and then start laying your blocks out as per your plan. And then you just won't get confused at all then. And as I said, you've got that little layout on the 3rd page as well. That will help you. Oh, Pippa, no. Oh, thanks, Pip. Yeah, it's getting much better, thank you. Yeah, Pippa, I mean, you know, there's going to be a lot of people who download it and won't feel ready, or you might not have time to do it. You might not feel confident doing it. It doesn't really matter. It's just nice that you've got the option to, you know, to have a go at some point if you want. You know, you can decide to do it at a later time. It really is down to you. There's no rush. You know, you don't get much for free these days, particularly patterns and stuff, which is why I did want to put something out there this year. And I do hope that for any beginners out there, yeah, I am, you know, you're not just doing a 9 patch. Oh, do you know what? I think I'm going to give up on this machine tonight because it's just unthreaded itself again. Yeah, you know, I just don't want to give you the 9 patch and say, yeah, go on, now you've learned something. And hopefully you've learned some of the trickier bits that you look at sometimes and think, oh God, I can't even do that. But you know, you should be able to go away and do flying geese this way now, without a problem. If you don't want to ruin your fabrics. Oh yes, please, San. If you don't mind, I'd like to see them. I've not seen them all together. If you don't want to ruin your fabrics, just cut some random bits out. A 4x2 rectangle and a 4 and 7/8. No, a 2 and 7/8 square will give you enough to work on if you want to use your scraps. If you just want to practice. If you don't want to use like your best fabric doing this, just practice on your scraps before you actually get in and do it. But you can see, I mean, I've unpicked tonight. It's not a problem. It comes together relatively easy. This, I think this is a complicated block, but I think you've got to agree when it is actually all put together. I mean, come on. It's a brilliant block. And I can't wait to see this in all your fabrics, to be honest, for those of you who do want to try it. And I think anyone, if you can do this block after tonight's demo, even if you can do block 3 after tonight's demo, I think anyone's going to look at it and go, wow, that's amazing. How the heck did you do this? But this is just taking you that next level up. I know it's probably pushing you out of your comfort zone, but I think you'd agree. All we're doing is we're sewing squares and triangles together. That's all we're doing. As long as we're consistent with our seam allowances, with our pressing, if we need to make any amendments, just amend your seam, the size of your seam slightly, like I did before with that 1/8 of an inch. I like the way you show. Yeah, see Tanya, flying geese don't need to be complicated. Yeah, you can go and, you know, you can look at them every which way, but it doesn't need to be complicated, honestly. It really doesn't. I'm just sewing the last one up now, so, and then I'll just show you there. I will get this finished tonight as well, but I mean, bear in mind, I've got 2 of every single block of these. I am trying to make them slightly different by throwing a couple of different colours in, to try and get different colours in. But with my brain fog, if I can do this while talking, I'm not even looking at the instructions, even though I have made it once before, I think you can all do it. Oh yeah, please, that's a good idea, Tony, because I do think block 3 is quite a relatively straightforward block, to be honest, ladies. So I mean,
give it a shot and let me know what you think. I'd love to see what fabrics you're using as well. You know me and fabrics. Right, so I've just got to the last bit now. So again, even though I do want to finish this, I'm still following my own rules and putting the crease in. It does, doesn't it, Joanna? It does cut out a lot of steps, I think, hun. And I think you still get, overall, I think you still get an accurate flying geese block as well. All mine have gone together perfectly well. As I said, if you have a brain fog like I had tonight and you miscut and you end up with, you know, you haven't got a 1/4 of an inch at the top, just adjust your seam allowance, because your blocks will all turn out the same. You can see all mine have joined together fine, no problem. This one wasn't a perfect 1/4 of an inch either, but I've just made sure that I've not took off the tip. Oh, I don't think it is scary. Yeah, different machine. That's the only thing, Tanya. Just be careful with the machine. Just make sure you measure your 1/4 of an inch. If you do use different machines, just make sure you measure your 1/4 of an inch when you flip between them both. As long as you do, then that's fine. So this is the top of this one. So as you can see, that's going to go on there. I'm just going to nest the seams there, and then that is the block done. And then that is going to go onto the bottom of there like that, and that's the second block of block 4 done. Okay, so I hope that's been helpful to everybody. Give that method of flying geese a go. It's how I first learned patchwork. This is very basic, and I really got this, and it sticks in my brain. I hope you do find some of the pattern information helpful. I particularly do like having the line drawing next to this, because I do refer back to this an awful lot. And if you want to colour this in as well, because it's got the letters on, do what you want to do to help you do it. I hope you will find this a little bit helpful as well, because obviously, you know, we've done this row and this row. This is why I have done then the same colours. Top triangular strip, bottom triangular strip, central strip, and these are your sewing lines there. Okay. In my head, that makes sense on how you should construct this block. Okay. Now, block 5 will be released next Monday. And I don't know whether I've got the next live for that, but this live, I know this has been a long live and it has, the signal's not been the best, I know that, but I will save this to my Facebook page, refer back to it. If anybody gets stuck, just let me know. Oh, it's Sandra Bennett. Tanya, yeah, the little pussycat, that's my sister, you know, the one that's gone up to Cumbria and lives in a beautiful old-fashioned cottage up in Cumbria, which is just picture perfect. So yeah, miss you, sis. Yes, so hope you've enjoyed it. I will get this block finished. I'll post a picture later. I'm just gonna have a nice cup of tea now, and yeah, and then I need to sit down, and I've got a few more blocks to write. It's nearly all done now. It's me. Oh, thank you, Joanne, and thank you for everybody for sticking this out for the 2 hours as well. I know it's probably been a bit full on. I hope you found it helpful. And I hope you learn a lot, and I really can't wait to see. I love seeing all your blocks. So yeah, so I'll say good night, ladies. Thank you everyone for joining, and I will see you on the next live. Look out on my new Monday site for block 5 next week. I hope you like it, because I think it's a good one. We'll start to introduce a few more shapes just to throw in a little bit of variety. There won't be as many triangular looking bits in that one, I don't think, from memory. I'll have to check. But yeah, see you all soon, ladies. Thank you for joining. Bye-bye. Bye.